Alman was home alone one night. His family had gone to visit relatives, leaving him with strict instructions. Stay home, watch a movie, but don't stay up too late. Alman didn't care much and started watching his favorite horror movie. Past midnight, he heard a noise outside. Tap, tap, tap. Alman froze. His heart raced. "It's just the wind," he murmured, but didn't dare to check. Then the sound came again, louder. Tap, tap, tap. Gathering courage, he peeked out. Darkness. Trees cast eerie shadows, but something moved among them. A figure stood there, staring back at him. "Who's there?" Alman shouted. No answer. He backed away, trembling. Reaching for his phone, the power went out. The house plunged into darkness. Alman found a flashlight and turned it on. At the end of the hallway, a tall, strange shadow stood still. Fear gripped him. He bolted outside. Barefoot, Alman ran through the cold, damp yard toward the forest, hearing footsteps behind him. The forest loomed, its trees towering like giants. Owls hooted, twigs snapped. He paused, looking back. No one. Suddenly, a whisper beside him said, "You found me?" He screamed and ran blindly. He tripped on a branch and fell. Around him, glowing red eyes emerged from the darkness, moving closer. Everything went black. The next morning, searchers found Alman under a tree, his flashlight faintly flickering. What happened that night remained a mystery, but Alman never stayed alone again. Jake, Matt, and Emily didn't want to spend a regular evening. Jake suggested something daring. "Let's visit that old cemetery. It'll be fun." Emily hesitated at first, but joined her friends. Holding flashlights, they entered through the cemetery's rusty iron gates. The wind howled eerily. "Look over there, that grave," Jake said. "They say the ghost of the man buried here still roams around." The trio approached an old, moss-covered grave. The engraving was faded, but readable. "Do not leave the one resting here alone." Matt laughed and placed his hand on the grave. "Hey, are you here?" At that moment, their flashlights flickered. "Must be low batteries," Matt muttered. Suddenly, the sound of a branch snapping came from behind the grave. They all turned sharply. In the shadows, a tall, thin figure emerged, motionless yet seemingly staring at them. ... "Is this a joke? Who's doing this?" Matt asked nervously. The figure took a step forward, yet there was no sound. Its red eyes glowed in the darkness. Emily screamed, "Run!" The three of them bolted toward the cemetery gates, dropping one flashlight. Behind them, a whisper trailed, "I see you." On the way home, none of them spoke. They kept glancing back, feeling like someone was following them. Even under the streetlights, they didn't feel safe. Jake finally broke the silence. "We shouldn't tell anyone about this. They'd laugh." Emily, however, whispered anxiously, "What if it's still following us?" When Emily got home, she locked the door immediately and went to her room. As she lay in bed, she felt a sudden chill. Looking toward the window, she froze. Written in condensation on the glass was a message, "I will find you." She screamed and turned on the lights, but the writing was gone. The next day, Emily told Jake and Matt about what she'd seen. Jake admitted he heard doors slamming all night, and Matt said he saw shadows moving in his mirror. The three realized something from the cemetery had followed them, and it wasn't going to leave them alone. Emma was a brave journalist. She heard of paranormal events in a village 300 kilometers away, Erie, Wales, door creaks and knocking at night. Seeing a great story opportunity, she made plans to visit. 2 weeks later, on a Sunday, she arrived at the village and began asking the locals about the events. Villagers told similar stories. At midnight, wails would echo, doors creaked, and persistent knocking began. One villager said, "The noises won't stop, no matter how much we pray. We think the village is cursed." Emma, curious, decided to spend the night in an old, abandoned house despite warnings. At midnight, the atmosphere changed. Low wails filled the air, and knocking started softly, growing louder. Emma filmed with her shaking hands. Footsteps creaked on the stairs. Whispers drifted from the shadows. Overwhelmed, she called Father James, her trusted friend, asking him to come immediately to the village. Father James arrived the next afternoon. After hearing Emma and the villagers, he researched the village's history. He learned of an old well at the village's center, cursed long ago by a sorcerer. James prepared a ritual to lift the curse, gathering holy water and prayers for the process. As the ritual began, the atmosphere grew darker. Shadows seemed alive, and the noises intensified. At midnight, Emma felt weak. Her breath was shallow, and she collapsed. By dawn, Emma's lifeless body was found. Father James was later discovered in the well, paralyzed, staring upward. James could only whisper, "The curse, it's still here." The villagers, terrified, sealed the cursed well. No one dared to investigate further. They prayed nightly, hoping to keep the curse at bay, but the fear lingered. Emma's story became legend, and the village remained trapped in its haunting fate.